I think I should welcome her properly. You know, I find it interesting that all of these girls who are in all of these online beefs all got either a project coming out or threatening to put a project out. It's wild. It's like they're taking all of this weirdo gossip and, you know, they're doing it for clout. There is no Diddy tolerance.
This was never meant to erupt on a random night. No countdown, no heads up, no press rollout, no crisis squad lurking in the wings. And that's exactly why it hit with a jolt nobody could ignore. When Jaguar Wright went live, nobody imagined they were about to witness a moment that could shatter relationships, rewrite legacies, and leave permanent scars. The audience braced for noise, maybe a rant, maybe a hint of shade. What they got instead felt like a switch snapping in the air. Within seconds, the energy shifted. Her expression didn't show emotion, it radiated certainty. The kind of certainty only someone clutching something dangerous can carry. And then she spoke. Not a hint, not a whisper. She declared she had evidence no one was meant to see. And what happened next didn't just shock comment sections, it froze them in place. This wasn't a fuzzy rumor or a second-hand accusation. This was a moment where the internet collectively leaned forward, whispering, "Wait, are we really seeing this?" The scene, a lavish setting, soft lighting, two people positioned far too close to dismiss as coincidence. Nothing explicit appeared, nothing graphic. Yet everything screamed, body language, comfort, intimacy, signals that only exist if history had already written them somewhere else. That's when gossip shifted. This wasn't chatter anymore. This was betrayal unfolding live, in real time. Because in the midst of that chaos stood a woman who had risked everything, her image, her loyalty, her very name, believing she was anchored in love, only to allegedly discover she was standing alone. The tears trending online weren't performative. They weren't spectacle. They were raw, unfiltered. And as denial posts flooded in and explanations scrambled across feeds, the internet noticed something unsettling. The receipts weren't slowing. They kept piling up. This wasn't confusion. It wasn't bad timing. It wasn't a single misstep. This looked like a double life unraveling before the world. And once something like that escapes, there's no putting it back. This wasn't the story ending. This was the exact moment everything began to collapse.
What did Clarissa do? She decided to become a part of a farce that is destroying what Black family looks like. Like, the simple fact that she thinks any of the stuff that she's doing, going back and forth with Remy, when Pap is still married and they have a small child, and now she talking about she want to have babies. Why? Why does somebody as punch drunk as you want to have a kid so you can be around more people that are smarter than you? Like, it's just no.
What made this moment unlike anything before wasn't just the allegation, it was the timing. Jaguar Wright didn't announce a live. She didn't tease it. She didn't drop hints or give anyone a reason to be ready. She simply appeared. And in today's attention economy, silence before a storm is never accidental. It's calculated, deliberate, strategic. At first, viewers treated it like background noise. Another late-night rant. Another unpredictable outburst from someone the internet has learned to half ignore. But within seconds, everything shifted. Jaguar wasn't rambling. She wasn't losing control. She wasn't spiraling. She was precise. Her posture was composed. Her voice measured. And that's when alarm bells started ringing. People who bluff usually overtalk. Those who feel exposed often over-explain. Jaguar did neither. She framed every word, every pause, every glance. She made it crystal clear. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't an accident. According to her, this wasn't a single misstep. It was a pattern. A double life. A reality hidden in plain sight, protected by silence. And then she dropped the claim that detonated the entire narrative. She said she had visuals involving Papoose and Tiki, materials never meant to escape private spaces. She didn't show them at first. She let the tension simmer. She let the comments pile up. She let the audience unravel themselves in panic. When the screen finally shifted, the reaction wasn't loud, it was stunned. The setting, as viewers noticed, didn't look thrown together. Soft lighting. Clean, deliberate angles. Expensive decor. Every detail suggested comfort, not coincidence. Nothing explicit appeared, nothing graphic. But the closeness, the subtle gestures, the intimacy, spoke volumes. The body language wasn't casual. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't something you could laugh off or excuse away. Comments flooded in. Wait, no way. Is this real? Within minutes, clips were ripped, reposted, and shared across every platform. Twitter threads exploded. TikTok edits circulated before the live even ended. This wasn't just going viral, it was mutating. And then Jaguar dropped the line that cemented the narrative. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't taken out of context. In her words, this was proof of a double life. Just that phrase reshaped everything. Once a situation is framed as a double life, every action is scrutinized, every silence questioned, every denial sounds rehearsed. As the live continued to ripple across the internet, attention shifted from Jaguar herself to those trapped in the middle of her claims. And that's when the most painful story surfaced: Clarissa Shields. Sources say Clarissa wasn't ready for what she saw coming. What Clarissa Shields allegedly saw circulating online wasn't just gossip whispered behind closed doors. This was her relationship being dissected publicly, frame by frame, comment by comment. When Clarissa finally appeared in public afterward, the strength she was known for was still there, but it was cracking. Her voice trembled. Her eyes spoke a story long before her words could catch up. She didn't sound angry. She sounded hurt. Betrayed. Exhausted. According to sources, Clarissa had openly chosen Papoose, taking stands that cost her relationships, reputation, and peace of mind. And now, she was allegedly realizing that while she had been defending love, she might have been defending a lie. That single moment shifted public perception instantly. What had seemed like a messy triangle now looked like emotional fallout, raw and irreversible. Fans weren't just reacting, they were digging, re-evaluating timelines. Old interviews resurfaced. Past posts were scrutinized. The questions started piling up. How long had this been going on? Who knew? And when? Meanwhile, Jaguar Wright refused to back down. She escalated her claims, insisting this wasn't impulsive behavior, it was a calculated pattern. According to her, Papoose had a history of positioning himself wherever opportunity thrived. First with one woman, then another, always aligning himself with visibility, influence, and advantage. And then, in the middle of the chaos, Jaguar dropped the statement that reframed the entire narrative, turning what seemed like scandal into a carefully orchestrated exposure.
You plant. You ain't nothing but a plant. And I'm gonna prove it. And that's why you with Pep. Because he's a plant. I'm about to bust you open. See, I figure I'm gonna give you something relevant to go back and forth about, so you can mind your business and stay out of this family that's being ripped to shreds by the media. For that little girl to see. I'm not doing it for them. I'm not even doing it for their fake black love campaign. I'm doing it for real black love. Because our people should not be this invested in seeing the desecration of black families. So since you want to use it for clout, little plant, greatest plant of all time, I'm not calling you no goat. You the goat. The greatest plant of all time. Probably not even that. Let's give you something relevant to talk about. I think I know what she's afraid of. And I'm about to expose it on the pods.
In this segment, Jaguar Wright went further, directly labeling Clarissa Shields a plant, strategically positioned, emotionally maneuvered. She alleged that both Clarissa and Papoose were being used, or willingly participating, in a carefully manufactured narrative designed to appear like genuine love. According to Jaguar, this explained why certain confrontations were avoided, why questions went unanswered, and why the public image was polished so meticulously. This wasn't romance, she claimed, it was calculated positioning. Clarissa was, in her view, being shielded from threats, steered away from conflict, and kept inside a tightly controlled storyline. Jaguar insisted she knew exactly what Clarissa feared, and that very fear, she claimed, was what caused the situation to unravel. Once that interview segment hit the internet, the conversation shifted again. Betrayal alone no longer defined the story, it became about control. If even part of Jaguar's claim was true, this wasn't a love story gone wrong. It was a performance that had slipped off script, a production nobody had been ready to witness. And as the notion spread online, the momentum only intensified. Jaguar went further, alleging there were voice notes, private audio clips capturing intimacy that contradicted the public narrative. Soft laughter, affectionate whispers, promises that didn't match what was said publicly. Fans listening didn't hear acting, they heard comfort, familiarity, trust, the kind of connection that can't form overnight. Then came the final escalation of this segment. Jaguar claimed there were private messages, WhatsApp chats, where strategy was being discussed. Not confusion, not regret, but meticulous planning, when to walk away, how to frame exits, how to control public perception once damage was done. As these claims spread, Papoose responded quickly, denying everything, calling it fake, a setup, a lie meant to destroy him. And for a moment, some paused to consider his denial, until they noticed something chilling. The receipts didn't slow down. They multiplied. Every denial was followed by another clip, another screenshot, another unanswered question. And that's when Clarissa Shields' silence began speaking louder than any statement. Sources say she's torn, caught between defending what she believed was real and confronting the possibility that the truth is far darker than she ever imagined. Publicly, she's holding her composure. Privately, the damage is deeper, the kind no edit, filter, or caption can erase. Because this wasn't just a breakup unraveling online. This was public betrayal, public exposure, and the violent collapse of a carefully maintained double life. As this chapter closed, one reality became impossible to ignore. This story wasn't cooling off. It was heating up. Because if what had already surfaced was this destructive, the question became unavoidable: what happens when the rest comes out? By the time the internet finished processing what was already visible, one thing was clear. This was no longer about a single leak. It was about control. As clips continued circulating and denial posts flooded timelines, the public began noticing a pattern that felt off. The responses sounded rehearsed. The timing felt deliberate. And the silence, especially from certain places, felt intentional. That's when the conversation shifted. Not what happened, but who was really in charge. And that's where Jaguar Wright changed direction. Up until then, many viewers had dismissed her live as explosive, even chaotic. But as part 2 unfolded, her claims sharpened. Less emotion, more precision. According to Jaguar, this wasn't a messy love triangle, it was a managed operation, one where image mattered more than truth. She alleged that Clarissa Shields wasn't just emotionally involved. She was being handled. And that single word altered everything. Because a handler isn't a partner. A handler is a controller. Someone who manages access, exposure, decisions, and outcomes. According to Jaguar, this relationship wasn't built on mutual vulnerability, it was built on positioning. She claimed Clarissa's public image had been carefully engineered, that confrontations were intentionally avoided, that certain threats never reached her by design. This wasn't coincidence. It was insulation. And if that were true, it explained far more than anyone was ready to admit. It explained a lot. Why tough questions never landed. Why timelines suddenly felt off. Why moments that seemed spontaneous in public now appeared staged. Jaguar Wright alleged that Papoose wasn't just caught in chaos, he was orchestrating it. According to her, he knew exactly when to speak, when to vanish, and when to let someone else take the brunt of the fallout. That accusation hit hard because the internet has seen opportunism before, but rarely this calculated, this meticulous. Fans started digging through old appearances, interviews, and statements that once seemed genuine. Now, the words sounded rehearsed. Promises felt recycled. Comparisons began surfacing, connections forming where none had been obvious. Jaguar claimed this wasn't the first time either. Before Clarissa Shields, there was Remy Ma, another powerful woman, another public narrative, another situation where loyalty was weaponized and visibility leveraged. She alleged a formula: line someone up, absorb credibility, and move on. As this theory circulated, Clarissa's silence grew heavier, more telling. Sources say she wasn't just grappling with heartbreak, she was realizing that her very strengths, the qualities that made her formidable, had also made her valuable to someone seeking protection and leverage. And then, Jaguar delivered the segment that would cement the narrative, the one that would make the audience see the situation in an entirely new, inescapable light.
And whoever he's reporting to, because I'm telling you now, after this relationship farce business with you, trying to transfer the Black Love brand to you and him, he's your handler, girl. Wake up and smell the coffee or the smelling salts. Because that's what you responded at. You get knocked out and you get the smelling salt. Wake up. Somebody get this hoe the smelling salts. He's a swish.
Damn.
I just wish Remy would tell the truth about it.
Well, Remy did say
Tell
something.
the truth about it, Remy. Tell the truth that you figured out that this nigga was your handler. Everybody knows that he's down with the Masonic temple. He's doing the handshakes. He's making the symbols. He's Shluminati up. If he's lost control of Remy, all they gonna do is give him another person to handle. And now here you are, Clarissa, with no real boxing record, and you already looking just a little bit punch drunk.
In this segment, Jaguar Wright went even further, asserting that Papoose was never a romantic partner, he was a handler. She claimed the so-called black love narrative was nothing more than a branding exercise, designed to transfer legitimacy and marketability. According to Jaguar, Clarissa Shields was being guided away from real threats and kept inside a tightly controlled storyline where decisions were made for her. She warned that as Clarissa grew more emotionally vulnerable, manipulation became easier. This dynamic, Jaguar alleged, benefited one person, financially and reputationally, while leaving Clarissa exposed to public humiliation and eventual abandonment once her usefulness expired. Once this segment circulated, reactions were immediate and sharply divided. Supporters of Clarissa expressed outrage, accusing Jaguar of cruelty and overreach. But others noticed something chilling. No one directly refuted the handler claim. Instead, responses were vague, emotional, defensive, fanning the flames instead of extinguishing them. When a claim is false, people rush to crush it with facts. When it's dangerous, they bury it in noise. As the handler theory gained traction, attention turned to Techie's role. Viewers began questioning how long she had been involved and why her presence coincided with moments of instability. According to Jaguar, this wasn't coincidence, it was replacement. When one narrative weakened, another was prepared. Then came the financial angle. Jaguar claimed that influence wasn't only emotional, it was monetary. Money moved quietly while attention screamed. According to her, the longer Clarissa stayed distracted by love and defense, the easier it became for someone else to redirect resources, opportunities, and decisions without resistance. That allegation sent shockwaves through the audience. At this point, the story had shifted. This was no longer gossip. It was exploitation. Sources say Clarissa now finds herself caught between two realities: the image she defended publicly, and the truth she may be confronting privately. The image Clarissa Shields defended publicly and the truth she may be confronting privately now stand at odds. She's trying to stay composed, but those close to her say the emotional toll is undeniable. Meanwhile, Papoose has maintained his denials, yet without clarity. Every response brushes the claims aside broadly, avoiding specifics. No timelines. No explanations. No direct engagement with the handler allegation. And in that vacuum of answers, speculation thrives. As this chapter closes, one truth rises above the noise. If Jaguar Wright's claims were false, they would have been dismantled by now. If even part of them is true, what remains unseen could be devastating. Because this story isn't about love gone wrong. It's about power disguised as protection. And the internet has stopped asking if something happened. Now the question is, how long has it been happening, and who benefits while it stays hidden? What started as a shocking live moment hardened into a narrative that refused to fade. Clips were no longer shared as rumors, they were archived. Screenshots time-stamped. Statements cross-checked. Silence became as loud as words. And in that silence, a pattern emerged that couldn't be ignored. If this were just chaos, it would have burned out. If it were mere gossip, the messenger would have taken the fall. But it didn't. Attention stayed locked on one question: who gains when everyone else falls apart? Sources say Clarissa Shields has been striving to maintain the composure expected of someone who has spent her life mastering control. Yet behind the scenes, that control is fraying. The pressure isn't just emotional, it's reputational. Every appearance, every post, every pause is dissected for meaning. And the cruelest part? She isn't just defending a relationship. She's defending a story that, according to Jaguar Wright, was never organic to begin with. And as days passed, Jaguar didn't retreat. She didn't soften. She doubled down. She didn't soften her tone. Jaguar Wright doubled down, not with theatrics, but with pointed warnings. Warnings about money, about influence, about what happens to those who mistake protection for love. That was the moment this phase crossed the line, shifting from mere exposure into full-blown collapse. Because now, it wasn't about who cheated, it was about who controlled the exit. Online observers began noticing the imbalance. While Clarissa Shields absorbed the emotional fallout, others remained insulated. No timelines clarified. No detailed rebuttals. No transparent explanations, just broad denials and strategic silence. That disparity set off alarm bells. If the relationship were equal, why was the fallout so uneven? Jaguar's claim offered a stark answer: it wasn't equal. It was managed. According to her, the moment Clarissa became emotionally vulnerable, she became easier to steer. Decisions could be nudged. Narratives could be shaped. And when the explosion finally came, the damage wouldn't be shared, it would be assigned. As speculation intensified, attention shifted to money and opportunity, not as idle gossip, but as motive. Jaguar alleged that influence doesn't announce itself, it moves quietly. While the internet argued over clips and denials, real gains were happening elsewhere, unseen. And then came the segment that many believe sealed the direction of the story, the one that reframed everything and left the audience unable to look away.
The only thing this is doing is building up a social media queue.
Yeah.
So that she can move off into becoming a social media influencer, and they can use her name as the greatest woman of all time to sell whatever brand and push whatever agenda that they want, and she'll be able to cash out of the game before she loses what's left of her mind.
Wow.
But that's okay, because every time you get punched in the head and you get a little slower, that's great for Papoose. Because now he don't have to explain to you how he's robbing you. He can just do it and notice that you'll just be sitting there, just the two of us, and he be gone with the damn money. You better watch your pocket. Stop playing in that man's wife's face.
In this segment, Jaguar Wright warned that Clarissa Shields needed to watch her pocket, alleging that emotional distraction creates the perfect environment for financial and reputational exploitation. She claimed that as Clarissa's vulnerability grew, accountability diminished, making it easier for someone else to walk away unscathed while leaving her to absorb the fallout. Jaguar framed the public humiliation not as a series of missteps, but as structural: one person exits with leverage, the other with damage. This, she argued, was the inevitable result of a relationship built on control rather than equality. Once the clip circulated, reactions shifted sharply. The conversation was no longer about whether Jaguar had been too harsh, it became about whether she might have been too accurate. No one directly addressed the warning. No one clarified why Clarissa seemed to carry the emotional and reputational weight alone. And in that void, the internet began filling in the blanks. Observers pointed out the subtle pivot in the narrative. The same voices that once celebrated black love now spoke in vagueness. The warmth vanished. What remained was distance. And distance, as always, tells a story. Jaguar didn't stop there. She challenged the industry itself, questioning why so few voices had risen to defend Remy Ma amid the chaos. Why the silence from those who normally rush to speak? Why had no one acted to protect the integrity of the narrative while others were left exposed? A woman with a long visible legacy could be publicly disrespected without consequence. That question echoed across feeds and comment sections. Because in moments like these, silence isn't neutrality, it's alignment. And alignment reveals exactly who the system protects. As days passed, Clarissa Shields' situation grew increasingly precarious. Sources say she's caught between two impossible choices: defend a narrative that's cracking, or admit she may have been maneuvered into one. Either path comes with loss. What makes this collapse particularly brutal is that it's happening in public, without pause, without mercy, without an off switch. Every attempt to move forward drags the past back into the spotlight. Every denial sparks more questions. Meanwhile, the person Jaguar Wright warned about remains untouched, unscathed. That contrast is the most damaging part of all. Because when only one person bleeds, it forces a haunting question. Was that always the plan? Jaguar's final message in this phase wasn't triumphant. It wasn't celebratory. It was cautionary. She didn't claim victory, she claimed inevitability. According to her, stories built on control don't end in closure. They end in abandonment. And abandonment doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like one person moving on while another is left explaining what happened. As part 3 closes, the internet is no longer divided over whether something went wrong. The debate has shifted to intention. Was this a relationship collapsing under pressure, or a structure designed to collapse someone else? One truth is undeniable: the fallout is no longer theoretical. It is visible. It is emotional. And it is irreversible. Once control is exposed, its power disappears. Once the mask slips, it can never fit the same way again. This wasn't just a scandal. It was a slow-motion unraveling, a carefully orchestrated collapse playing out in real time. And if Jaguar Wright is right, if this was always about leverage, then the most dangerous chapters of the story may not have even surfaced yet. Because true collapses don't make announcements. They happen quietly, almost imperceptibly, right before everything changes.